Wells Fargo just launched their new autograph journey card. And it's been the talk of the town in the credit card world for the last week. Some YouTubers and blogs think this is the best mid-tier travel credit card, but I don't think there's really a use case for anyone, and you should really think twice about getting it. So to start with the basics, this card gets you 60,000 bonus points once you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. And that's a good place to start because these points are a new type of Wells Fargo point where you can transfer it to their different transfer partners, and I'll put them up on the screen. There's one hotel program, the Choice Hotels program, where if you notice, for every one Wells Fargo point, you get 2 of those, but that's because they aren't really valuable points. And then if you look at the airline partners, there's a major transfer partner in every major alliance, so it's better than nothing, but it's not nearly as valuable as the transfer programs in the Wells Fargo Built card, which gives you Hyatt, which is one of the most valuable transfer partners ever. Now, Wells Fargo has promised that they're going to add transfer partners to these programs, so we'll see what ultimately ends up happening, but right now, these points are not all that valuable. But forget that for a second. Assume they're valuable. Let's look at the multipliers. What does this card get you after the sign-up bonus? So the multipliers on this card are one of the reasons people are super excited about it. You're gonna get 5x back on hotels, 4x back on airlines, 3x back on other travel, meaning non-airline and non-hotel travel, and 3x back on dining, and then 1x on everything else. But the key to these multipliers, which people are saying is one of the best selling points about this card, is the fact that you don't have to book with a Wells Fargo travel portal in order to get those benefits. So for example, the Capital One Venture X gets you 10x back on hotels and 5x on flights instead of the 5 and 4 that this new autograph journey card gets you. But for those points, you need to book through Capital One's travel portal. Chase has the same thing with their Sapphire cards. And then if you look at Amex, they have the same thing with their Platinum cards, where you have to book through the travel portal in order to get the maximum number of points. And Wells Fargo here, as long as you book with the airline or with the hotel, doesn't have that requirement. Now to Amex's credit, Amex lets you book directly with airlines on the Platinum card to get your 5x back there. But as many YouTubers would point out, this is supposed to be the best mid-tier travel credit card. It's not supposed to be a premium tier credit card like the Amex Platinum, for example. And that's really the big selling point here. In order to get all of this, you do have to pay a $95 annual fee, which supporters of this new card will quickly point out is offset by a $50 airline credit, which basically means if you fly for at least $50 a year, right? If you spend at least $50 a year on flights, this effectively becomes a $45 annual fee. And it looks like that's mirrored after the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which has their fee subtracted by $50 because of a hotel credit. So you see where Wells Fargo is trying to fit in here. Kind of below the Sapphire Reserve, kind of next to the Sapphire Preferred, and people who support this new card are going to say it slots in below the Capital One Venture X and the Amex Platinum because the people looking at this card won't be the people looking at these premium travel cards. But if we take a closer look at these premium travel cards, this certainly isn't a bad card. It also comes with no foreign transaction fee, but it's certainly not a bad card, but it's far from worth it for just about anyone. If you look at the cards that this is supposed to compete with, I don't really see who this would make sense for instead of another card. Now, if you want to get it for the sign-up bonus, that's fine, but that should be in addition to other sign-up bonuses you get, because the sign-up bonus for this card, let's take what I think is its closest competitor, the Capital One Venture X. If you look at the Venture X gets you 75,000 Capital One miles, which in my opinion are more valuable than these new Wells Fargo points, in exchange for the same $4,000 of spend in the first 3 months of owning the card. So again, that's comparable with this new autograph journey card, but it's even 25% more points. So you shouldn't get this card just for the bonus if you're only planning on getting one card. You should still get the Capital One Venture X before that. Now, if you're one of those people who say that the Capital One Venture X is a higher tier card because it has a $395 annual fee compared to the $95 annual fee of this Wells Fargo card, well, you're missing the point. Because those same people say that this is really a $45 annual fee card because you get your $50 credit. Well, on the Venture X card that has a $395 annual fee, you essentially get $400 in credits. You get $300 in a travel credit, which brings it from $395 to $95, and then every year on your account anniversary, you get 10,000 Capital One miles, which are worth at least $100. So they're essentially paying you $5 to have the card every year as long as you use the $300 travel credit and the 10,000 miles. But they also give you other credits, like they pay for your TSA PreCheck, for example. And then if you go back to the rewards multipliers, the Capital One Venture X, instead of 5x on hotels, for less of a fee, because for this card, you're paying $45 a year for it, whereas the Venture X, you're paying negative $5 a year for it after you take into account the credits. So for this card, for the Autograph Journey, you only get 5x back on hotels, whereas on the Venture X, you get 10x back on hotels. And for this card, you get 4x back on airlines, but on the Venture X, you get 5x back on airlines, and you get 2x back on everything else. So you don't get the 3x back on other travel and dining, but here's the thing. The Capital One Venture X gets you 2x back on everything. So on other travel and dining, you're getting 2x back in Capital One miles. Those miles are more valuable than these Wells Fargo points because Capital One has better travel partners. And so you're paying, essentially, in net effective fee, you're paying $50 a year more for this new Wells Fargo card just to get the extra 1x back on other travel, meaning non-airline and non-hotel travel, when on airline and hotel travel, you'd make way more with the Capital One Venture X than you'd make with this card. So you're paying $50 a year to get the extra 1x on other travel and dining. But for no annual fee, you can get a better Wells Fargo transfer program with the Built card that gives you 3x back on dining. And so really the only reason you'd get this card is for that extra 1x back on other travel, which again is non-airline, non-hotel travel. But in my opinion, I'd rather have 2x back in Capital One points than 3x back in the Wells Fargo points. Because for example, on my honeymoon, I got about 3 cents per point for my Capital One miles, which means it was essentially 6% back on everything instead of the 3% back you're gonna get with Wells Fargo. And people who support this card and who are a big fan of this card are gonna be saying, well, you're not getting it, Ken. The problem is that with Capital One, you have to book through their travel portal. And travel portals often have higher prices. They don't always give you the best deals, so no wonder they're able to offer 10x back on hotels, 5x back on flights. But what they don't realize is that the Capital One travel portal has a price match guarantee. So if you see the airline directly or the hotel directly post a better deal than what the Capital One travel portal is giving you, they'll refund you the difference. So there are no upcharges on the Capital One portal, unlike sometimes with the Chase and Amex portals. And you might say, well, what if you find a better price on Expedia? Well, if you find a better price on Expedia, Wells Fargo is not going to honor that for your 5x or 4x back here. That's only if you book directly with them. So the same prices that Capital One doesn't honor, Wells Fargo doesn't honor. And the prices that Wells Fargo gives you the 5x and 4x back on, Capital One gives you 10x and 5x back on for less of an annual fee. So the only reason you should get this new Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card, if you are not just getting it for the sign-up bonus, is because you think paying that $50 a year extra that you would pay above what you would be paying for the Capital One Venture X, you think that is worth getting 1x extra back in Wells Fargo points for non-hotel and non-airline travel. So you have to think $50 is worth it, because otherwise a setup with the Built card for your 3x back on dining with better transfer partners, that's like this transfer program plus Hyatt, which is the most valuable transfer program. On my honeymoon, I got almost 4 cents per point on Hyatt redemptions. So the only reason to get this Autograph Journey card from Wells Fargo is if you think that $50 a year is worth that extra 1 point per dollar spent back in non-airline and non-hotel travel. Which, let's do the math. If you value Capital One miles at 1 cent per point, and you value the Wells Fargo points here also at 1 cent per point, and keep in mind, the Capital One miles are worth way more than that in my opinion, but if you value them the same way, then you have to spend, just to break even there, $5,000 a year in non-airline and non-hotel travel just to break even. And for it to be worth it, you have to spend even more than that. So I don't see a reason for anyone to get this card, because in order for you to be the type of person who should get this card instead of a combo of the Capital One Venture X and the Built Wells Fargo card, the only reason for you guys to get the Autograph Journey card is if you spend $5,000 or more in this really unique set of other travel. But if you do that, if you spend $5,000 a year in other travel, you're probably the type of person that spends a lot on hotels and airlines, which means that the rewards from the Capital One Venture X are going to far outweigh the rewards from this card and take away any benefit you might have. So for those people who say this is like an intermediate travel card, it's not. Because for it to make sense, you have to spend $5,000 a year in this random category, and only really high spenders are going to spend that. So for people who are looking for an intermediate card and who care about the net effective annual fee, which means you care about these credits that are going back to you, you should clearly just get the Capital One Venture X. And if you care about the 3x back on dining, pair that with the Built card, which is like a better version of this for dining. So I don't see a single person who should be getting this new Autograph Journey card from Wells Fargo. And if you liked hearing this unpopular, but I think very logical take about this new card, and would like to hear other unpopular opinions in the credit card world, please give me a follow. It would be a great help to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next time.